For you cassette deck buffs out there, I have another cassette deck to work on. This is a high-end Sony ES auto reverse deck that needs some belts, and the owner of it tried to do it himself. So this could be an interesting one because I don't know what to expect. It's been worked on. Let's check it out. This is a Sony tcrx70es auto reverse cassette deck that was brought in to have belts replaced. The guy that owns this already took the liberty of taking it all apart and removing the old belts, and then bringing it out to me because he didn't feel comfortable replacing the belts himself and didn't know where he could get some. And I more than likely have belts that are going to fit it. So let's get started. So this will be a 3-motor design. On these units, one motor is dedicated for the capstan drive, one for the rail drive, and one to operate the mechanism. And I think all the belts have to be replaced on all of them. So let's just remove the deck itself. Oh, and he's left a screw inside here for something. And nope. I don't know where that screw goes, so it's not going back in. Rule number 1 when you're taking things apart, always film it so that you know where the screws go. Nice thing about these ones is that the deck will lift right out, so you can unplug it and service the deck outside of the chassis, which was always nice when you can do that. Okay, here's the deck itself. It's going to need, I think, 2 belts on this thing. One is for the opening and closing and loading of the mechanism and operating the mechanism, and the other one is for the 2 flywheels. And the center motor here should be direct drive for the take up and supply spools. Should remove the headboard. So now I can swing. Oh, look at that. Yum. Looks like the belt itself is still, the remnants of the belt is wound around the motor shaft here. So I got to pull the pulley off to clean the remnants of the gummed up belt that's just melted into the motor shaft. So let's get something to clean that out. Yeah, I know the alcohol isn't going to do the motor any good, but really I don't give a crap. I don't have a lot of choice. I've got to get this tar out of the motor bearing or it's not going to spin at all. I'll put a drop of oil on when I'm done. So it looks like what happened is the belt broke, and someone started it up after the belt had turned to mush basically, and the belt as it broke or stretched, it came off the pulley and wound itself around the motor shaft here. This is gross, this stuff, when this happens. And you got to get all this out of here because it'll slow the motor down. I'm using a screwdriver. I have the motor spinning. I'm using a screwdriver just to get the last little bits of remnants of that old gummed up belt out of here. Motor's spinning okay, so we don't have a problem with the motor. we'll do the same. We'll use a sharp edge of the screwdriver here just to clean off the gunk that remains on the pulley, on the flywheel here, because there was a residue left here as well. As you can see, it just comes off quite easy. Now, I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm not putting enough pressure on here to scratch the metal, that's for sure. Just enough to clean the residue off here so that there's no high spots. Because this tape deck is going back into service. Clean up the last little bit with some isopropyl alcohol. And then I can begin my search for a new belt. That one looks pretty good. Oh, there's some residue left on this one as well. We'll just use the scraper to scrape this off as well. There, that's pretty good. That's feeling pretty good there. There's no rough part from the belt anymore. Everything feels nice and smooth. Okay. Now to find a belt. First thing I need to do is replace the control belt. So we'll take out the two capstan shafts so that I can get at the mechanism to put a new belt on here. The capstan shafts are actually two different sizes, so it's impossible to mix them up because one won't fit into the other. I have to loosen off this chassis so that I can slip the belt over this pulley. Just a small belt that goes around this pulley and the motor itself. That has to come out, and then this cut washer has to come off here, because that's going to hold the mechanism in place. So I got to take this cut washer off so I can take out the pendulum gear. So cut washer off, pendulum gear off, and now the mechanism will lift out. That's what you got to do to get this thing apart, to change this other stinking belt, which is also, of course, melted. Ugh. My favorite state of belts, melting. Yuck. This one has a mode switch in it, as you can see. And it has photo-optical rotation sensors for the tape hubs themselves, which are down here. Silver. So this is reflectors that reflect the LEDs right here back onto the photo transistors, so that the unit knows that the tape is actually moving. That's used for the auto stop and the auto reverse and fast forward rewind to determine the position of the tape for the tape counter. It's got a linear counter on this one. So I got to change two belts. I got to change this little belt here, and this one here doesn't. The pulley doesn't look to be too bad on this one. When it broke, it wound up on the side of the hub. That's not going to cause damage. I don't see any remnants here inside this either, inside this pulley. So it's just a matter of finding a small belt to go around there, and to do that we just lift that gear off. Then I can put the belt around that pulley, put this mechanism back together, hook the belt up there, and then try and find a capstan belt. This small belt here is probably going to be good enough. If I put the belt around the pulley, we'll just see what type of tension we've got here. That will probably do the job, that little belt. So let's put this gear back on. I'll set the mechanism back in place and see what the belt tension's like when it goes around the pulley. So open up the... Also got to make sure that none of these fall out, so don't turn these over when you're working on them. They have to, otherwise pieces are going to fall out. Okay, chassis in place. We'll put the retaining screws back in. I'm just going to put the three of them in here right now, just to hold it in place, and then I can slip the belt back around the pulley. The third one over here. Now I just have to slip that belt around the pulley, so it's easier said than done, I tell you. Okay, belt's on the pulley. So now when I operate the mechanism here by hand, you'll see that it'll raise and lower the head. There's the head going up. The head comes down, and then it'll reverse the direction of the head. So this is for the reverse direction. So in this case it raises this pinch roller, and if I go back the other way it'll raise this pinch roller. So that's the control operation. Head reverses, and this time this other pinch roller engages, this one stays down. So that's the control of the mechanism. Now I can start to reassemble, or find some belts, I should say, for the I can put the pendulum gear back on. And sometimes it's easier if we remove the cassette basket itself. And how you do that is, if you want to remove the cassette basket, just remove this cut washer here. This little pin will drop through, and the whole entire cassette basket can come off for ease of servicing. So if you want to take that off, this is how you do that. I figure I'll show you guys that while I'm at it. So if we remove this cut washer again, just gotta be careful with these things because they'll spring away on you if you're not careful. So we take the cut washer off, and then we're gonna push this pin down like that, and this pin will come out from the bottom, and now you can lift the mechanism off. And it just lifts out to the other side. There's a pin on the other side. Now we've got the mechanism open. Now I can put the pendulum gear back on. A little easier to do this when the mechanism's out of the way. Put the pendulum gear on, put its cut washer back in place. You can do it without taking out the cassette basket, but you know what? It makes it easier for the amount of work it is to take it out. It's really not much work to take it out. Then we can drop the cassette backing back in place, and its two screws that hold it on. They were black, I believe. These ones here. This wire goes back around through there, plugs in up on the top here. This is for the light for the cassette. Head wires, of course, go in through these little wire holders to hold the wires in place. I think this has a sensor in here, if I'm not mistaken. There's an optical sensor. Some of these ones did anyway. Some of them had an optical sensor, like in here. I think this one might have one. It looks like that might be a sensor there, or on this side, that detects the clear leader to do quick reverse. Looks like there might be. Some of these tape decks did. This one I think does. I think there's a sensor in here. Right down there. I think. Looks like it. Yep, I would say that there is, because there's a little circuit board here. You see? And that's right below here. There's an optical sensor in here for quick reverse, so that as soon as it sees the leader, in other words, as soon as it stops seeing the reflection of the tape itself, or shines through the clear leader and sees the cassette, I think it probably is shining off the surface of the tape anyway. As soon as the contrast changes, it changes direction. Neat, huh? Well thought out tape deck. The two capstan flywheels go back in place. We'll put the washers back on. Put the cassette compartment back on. We just reinsert the pin. Align that little bent lever there on that side. And then I can put the retainer pin through from the other side down here and replace the cut washer. And that's what holds the cassette mechanism together, just like that. Now I got to find a belt for the capstans. We'll put the capstan belts back on. Okay, so I'm just going through my collection of belts because I don't have the belt for this thing to measure it. I could just put some dental floss around the pulleys and tie it, which is a way of doing it, but I got a bunch of belts, so we'll just throw some around here and see which one works. The retail places that sold belts have all closed their doors, and if you go out and buy a belt kit for a specific model, which I'm sure you can do, you can buy belt kits for specific models, but you get hosed. I've had people tell me that they ordered a belt kit and they paid like $60 or $70 for a belt kit, and I was like, are you on drugs? But sometimes they charge a little excessive, I think, some of these eBay sellers. I just bought a universal kit of 35 belts, and I've used it to fix a few machines, so that goes on like that. I think this belt might be one that will be adequate. Find my one long screw that goes down through here. I think that's the one that holds this on. I'll just tack this one screw down just for now. I think it was these ones, these black ones, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. Attach a few screws here just so that I can spin the belt onto the pulley and see whether it will how it turns. Okay, my belt is not quite in the right position, but if I grab it with my nifty little pick here, I can pull it off of where I stuck it to hold it in place and get it around the pulley. And see if it turns. And it turns. And I think that belt might just do the job. Easy peasy when you know what you're doing, that is. Okay, we'll put the circuit board back up however it went. Something like this, I believe. Anybody remember how this came out of here? It attaches in here somewhere, like that, I think. And this ground screw goes through there. And then this other ground screw actually went to this screw up here, so I'll remove this screw to put the ground screw back on. So that's got that taken care of. Now we'll just kind of redress these wires where they belong. And I'll put the linkage back on over here for the opening and closing of the tape door. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but the cat is being quite vocal in the house. I have a cat that thinks he's a Siamese cat. He's not, but he thinks he is. He's nice and loud like a Siamese cat, but he's not. He's a tabby. In fact, it makes more noise than the Siamese cat that I have. Plug the motor back in. And now, if I put power to this thing, I should be able to get this mechanism to close. Okay, let's see whether the mechanism works now that I've got it all back together. So, motor's running. You can see the flywheels are spinning. Press the open button. It opens. Press the open close button again. So that's good. Let's put the mechanism back into the chassis. Couple screws to hold the top in place, and 2 more in the bottom, and then we can test this thing and see if it works. This was a lot of work to change those belts. And for those that like to close the door, you can do it this way too. Or you can press the open close button. Your choice. Either way it works. Nice fluorescent display on this, love it. Check the fluorescent display out. I'll turn that down so that I can talk over it. If we look at this unit, it's got a really nice fluorescent display on this. Love these fluorescent displays. And you can pick tape counter, nothing, or both VU meter, or VU meter as it's called, and the linear counter. Fast forward. Has AMS search, so it'll go to the next track. Rewind. I don't know if there's anything else on the other side of this tape, but there is. Nice quick reverse. Let's check the speed out. There's our speed there. It's pretty close. Here's where you adjust the speed on these ones. Okay, let's see how well this thing records. Hit record, it goes into record pause. If I wanted to record in the reverse direction, I'd press that one, but I'm going to record in forward direction. Let the leader play out on this, and we'll just pick track number 14 on my CD player. Let this record. I'm recording it in Dolby C, and then we'll play it back and see how it sounds when we're done. Okay, let's play this back. Oops. Play. Gotta love Dolby C. Ugh. You can hear it. I would say this one's fixed. Sending this one on its way. Like it. Gotta like it. Well built cassette deck by Sony. An ES. You know what ES stands for, right? Expensive sheet. And they were. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you again in the next one real soon. Bye for now.